The rose in my hand fell to the ground as I stood there, stunned. My fiancée, Audrey Collins, was lying in bed with another man, still wearing her wedding dress. Tomorrow was supposed to be our wedding day. I let out a bitter laugh. "Do you realize this is our marital home?" Audrey shrugged carelessly. "If we're going for thrills, might as well go all the way. Besides, what are you going to do about it? You're just a lapdog my father keeps around. Do you really think you have the guts to divorce me?" I shook my head and turned to leave. As I closed the door, I heard her sneer useless, followed by the sound of heavy breathing from inside. For years, I had been working under her father, climbing the corporate ladder. Audrey thought she had me under her thumb. What she didn't know was that her father had been suffering from dementia for the past 6 months. In that time, my ambition had led me to seize control of everything. With just one word from me, her family would be bankrupt in an instant. Ding! Story Shots reminds you to click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner to read the full novel. I made 2 phone calls. One was to notify all friends and family that they needn't come to the wedding tomorrow. The other was to tell my secretary to inform all shareholders that, from today onwards, I would no longer protect the Collins family. The shareholders acted quickly. When I reached the ground floor, I saw Audrey Collins' driver hurrying over. He bowed deeply to me, then got into the Porsche and drove away. Both the car and the driver were gifts from other shareholders to curry favor with her father. Now, Audrey Collins held no value in their eyes. This woman was still upstairs in the throes of passion, unaware that from now on, forget about a Porsche, she wouldn't even be able to afford the tube. Even this wedding flat was nominally given to Audrey Collins by a property developer who had heard we were getting married and wanted to befriend me. I had just sat in my own car when I saw a group of property management staff rushing upstairs. This 3,000-square-foot riverside flat was no longer a place Audrey Collins could live in. Soon, she was dragged down by security guards, disheveled and shouting frantically, "Don't touch me! What are you doing? Do you know who my father is?" Her father? After I seized power, her father was nothing. Audrey Collins saw me in the car. She broke free from the guards, rushed over to bang on my car window, cursing angrily, "Barnaby Williams, what trick are you playing? I'm going to tell my father right now and make you lose everything." This woman still didn't understand that the one who had lost everything was her. The man beside her anxiously said to me, "Barnaby, Audrey and I have wronged you. But you can't just throw her out of her home. Even crows know to repay kindness. Don't forget how her father has promoted you all these years." I glanced at the man. I knew him, Lennox Griffiths, Audrey Collins' old flame from her school days. Audrey truly loved him for many years. I always knew that when Lennox Griffiths got his chance to study abroad, Audrey Collins gave him her first time. That night she became pregnant and had an abortion, crying that she had lost his child. Once I worked tirelessly for the Collins family. Now I only care about this business empire. I calmly told my driver, "Drive." As the scenery outside began to recede, Audrey Collins frantically pounded on my car window, screaming hysterically, "Barnaby Williams, at the shareholders' meeting the day after tomorrow. I'll clean house and kick you, you ungrateful wretch, out of the Collins group." An ungrateful wretch? I laughed. All these years, people thought Mr. Collins was grooming me. But they forgot that when he built his fortune through smuggling and was caught for tax evasion, it was my loyal father who took the blame for everything. Perhaps feeling indebted, he took me in as his godson. On my first day at the Collins house, Audrey Collins arrogantly said to me, "They say your dad was my dad's lapdog, so from today on, you're my lapdog." That day, Mr. Collins laughed heartily and told me not to take it to heart, saying children often speak without thinking. From that day forward, I lived for the Collins family. At school, Audrey would call me puppy in front of our classmates, making me carry her bag and do her homework. If I ever hesitated, she'd cry out in front of everyone, "You bastard without a father! If my dad hadn't taken you in, you'd have starved to death. How ungrateful can you be?" When I wore new clothes for Christmas, she'd go around telling everyone that her dad bought my clothes and gave me my Christmas money. From childhood, I was that loyal dog. As I grew up, I joined Collins' group and climbed the corporate ladder. But each step I took was stained with invisible blood, as I eliminated every enemy that stood in Audrey's way for Mr. Collins. I built a throne, waiting for Audrey's return. All these years, she only cared about partying and having fun, letting me pave the way for her. Once she'd had enough of playing around, she could easily take her rightful place. Come to think of it, I should be grateful she was too busy enjoying herself to even care about her own father. Otherwise, how could I have gotten my hands on this vast empire? The next day, Audrey came, bringing Lennox Griffiths with her. She barged into my office, yelling, "How dare you, Barnaby Williams? You actually canceled the wedding." I glanced at her and calmly asked, "What's the matter? Where's my dad? All my cards have been frozen. Lennox had to pay for my cab here." I casually replied, "The chairman is out of town on business." In reality, how could he possibly be on a business trip? He couldn't even remember who he was anymore, having been placed in a nursing home abroad by my arrangements. Audrey looked me in the eye, suddenly laughing bitterly. "I was planning to kick you out at tomorrow's shareholders' meeting, but I can't stand the sight of your face anymore. It's sickening. Stop pretending you belong in that chair. Get out." She pulled out a document and slammed it on my desk. I picked it up and saw it was a personnel appointment letter. "Mr. Lennox Griffiths is hereby appointed as Assistant General Manager of our company, to assume the position immediately upon his return to the country." It was signed by Mr. Collins just 6 months ago. Starting directly as Assistant General Manager, clearly aiming for my position, and expecting me to train him personally. Indeed, Mr. Collins had always seen me as nothing more than the family's loyal dog. Audrey sneered, "Let me tell you, you'll only be wearing that suit for another 3 months at most. This chair belongs to Lennox." Lennox feigned politeness. "I'm sorry." Audrey said the company was busy and hoped I could help out. I had no idea it would be like this. I nodded and extended my hand to him. "Welcome aboard." Lennox shook my hand, his face beaming with victory. I withdrew my hand. "However, you stepped into the office left foot first just now, which doesn't align with our company image. Please go to HR and process your resignation." Lennox's smile gradually froze. Audrey's eyes widened. "How dare you? You actually fired Lennox." I sat in my chair, flipping through documents, and said nonchalantly, "I'm firing my assistant. Is there a problem with that?" Lennox Griffiths was still pretending. He smiled wryly and said, "Barnaby, shut up. Who gave you permission to call me Barnaby?" "All right, Barnaby Williams. I understand you're angry with me, but this is Mr. Collins' appointment. If you fire me directly now, I'm afraid you'll look quite bad at tomorrow's shareholders' meeting." "Will I?" I took out my phone, opened the camera, and looked at my face. Then I said seriously, "I think I look quite handsome. My chin and eye bags are the most charming features." He stood there, dumbfounded and slack-jawed. Audrey Collins angrily pushed all the documents off my desk onto the floor. She yelled, "Barnaby Williams, do you really think you're the CEO of my family's company? Let me tell you the truth. The only reason I dated and married you was because my father saw that you had built a team of elites and wanted to win people's hearts first. Now that the company is on the right track, we don't need you anymore." I nodded. I had always known this. She continued with a cold laugh. "You're about to become a pauper. Why else do you think I made you sign a prenuptial agreement? Whether we're married or divorced, our assets remain separate. Some people, pity them, won't even be able to afford a bowl of fish and chips soon." Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. Thank goodness for the prenuptial agreement. "You dare to laugh?" As Audrey Collins was about to fly into a rage, I simply stood up and adjusted my tie. "I'm sorry, but I have a meeting to attend. I'll have to leave you now." Lennox Griffith sighed. "Barnaby Williams, I know you're still unable to accept this. I'll come back to take up the position tomorrow. Don't worry, you're talented. 3 months after I become CEO, I'll still arrange for you to assist me." I couldn't be bothered to respond to him. I turned and left, making a call to my secretary. When the call connected, I asked, "How are things going?" The secretary respectfully replied, "From tomorrow onwards, the Collins family will cease to exist. Arrange a car for tomorrow morning. The shareholders' meeting is in the morning. Where do you need to go?" "To the prison to pick someone up." Outside the prison gates, I sat in the Maybach, reviewing the proposal for tomorrow. As the prison doors opened, my father walked out carrying a small bag, dressed plainly. The secretary hurried to take his bag, while he approached my side, touching the car door and remarking with a sigh, "Ms. Collins is so kind, letting you ride in such an expensive car." I calmly said, "Get in." He sat in the car somewhat awkwardly, even wiping the seat. "I'm a bit dirty. Don't want to soil Ms. Collins' car." "Son, I'm truly relieved I left you with Ms. Collins. Look how well she's raised you." "Raised me?" I scoffed coldly. "In secondary school, Audrey forced me to wash her feet to show off to her classmates that she had a servant. She even wanted me to drink her foot water. When I refused, she slapped me 3 times in front of everyone. Her father only told her not to joke around when he found out." "Is that what you call raising me?" "I studied hard and got into a top university. Because she needed a servant, I was arranged to go to a third-rate university instead. While I was cleaning her dormitory, she was servicing Lennox at a hotel. After her abortion, when she was weak, she still ordered me around. Is that what you call raising me?" I'll never forget the taste of that foot water, nor will I forget the humiliation I suffered as a man. The smile on my father's face gradually froze. He said quietly, "You can't be ungrateful. Look at you now in your suit and tie, all thanks to the Collins family's support." I remained silent. Our paths diverge. We can't work together. My father has been loyal to the Collins family for decades, gnawing happily on any bone they throw him. But I'm different. After all the hardships and bullying I've endured, no one can stand above me anymore. I brought him here today so he could witness the Collins family's downfall with his own eyes and see me rise to the top. When the car arrived at the Collins Group entrance, Audrey Collins and Lennox Griffiths were already waiting. As soon as my father saw Audrey, he hurried over obsequiously. "Audrey, you've grown so much." Audrey looked at him with disdain. "Who are you, mister? How do you know me?" "I'm your Uncle Williams. Miss Collins came to see me 5 years ago and showed me your photo. I recognized you immediately." Audrey suddenly realized, smirking, "Uncle Williams, you've certainly done a fine job raising your son." My father didn't catch her sarcasm, fawning, "It's all thanks to your and Ms. Collins' care." Audrey looked at me haughtily, then suddenly said to my father, "I'm thirsty. Go buy me some water." "Of course, Uncle will go right away." As I watched my father scurry off to buy water for Audrey, she smirked at me. "See that? Your dad makes a better servant than you do." I stood at the entrance, patiently waiting for my father to return. He came back panting, bringing a bottle of water for Audrey Collins. Audrey took the water and immediately threw it on the ground. "I want an iced one," she demanded. Father was startled and quickly said, "Then I'll buy you a new one." "Never mind, I don't want it anymore," Audrey replied. She gave me a challenging look before walking straight into the company building. Father returned to my side at a loss. He smiled bitterly and said, "The girl's temper is getting worse. Remember to buy her a drink later." I said softly, "Let's go, the meeting is about to start. I'll allow you to sit in." The shareholders' meeting. All 12 shareholders were present. Only the chairman's seat at the head of the table remained empty. Audrey sat in her chair, chewing gum carelessly, and asked, "Where's my dad?" I picked up the documents and spoke into the microphone. "This is the 3rd quarterly meeting of the year. Miss Collins didn't attend the previous 2, so I'll briefly summarize the main points from those meetings." She maintained her nonchalant attitude and sneered. "I was abroad visiting Lennox for the first one, and Lennox was on holiday and came to see me for the second." All the shareholders looked grim. This woman was truly showing her true colors now, no longer pretending. I cleared my throat and said, "In the first quarter, I led the company into the internet sector, signing contracts with 85 influencers. Taking advantage of the New Year's sales, we made a profit of £3.5 million. In the second quarter, to reduce costs, we created our own exclusive influencers and developed viral marketing campaigns, greatly reducing our marketing expenses. We made a profit of £6 million, preparing for the mid-year sales push. Audrey suddenly raised her hand, interrupting me. That's enough, you don't need to boast about your abilities in front of me. This is just what you're supposed to do. Let me tell you, Lennox can do all the work you've done, and he can do it better. Her words suddenly changed the expression on my father's face in the corner. He looked worried, fearing that I might lose the Collins family's protection. Lennox Griffith smiled and said, "Barnaby, you've paved the way very well. When I take over your position, I'll take the company to the next level during Boxing Day. Thank you for creating such a good foundation." I glanced at him. Indeed, this excellent start was all built by my efforts over the years. I helped the Collins family achieve wealth and glory, but the father and daughter just treated me like a dog. Audrey said softly, "Lennox, you don't need to thank him. The company is on an upward trend now. When you take over, you can immediately play your trump card." Lennox smiled and said, "Silly girl, no matter what the company's situation is, I'll go through it with you. We can share the good times and the bad." Hearing Lennox say this, I felt relieved. I cleared my throat and continued. In the third quarter, the company lost £35 million. More than half of our warehouse leases have expired and cannot be renewed. Additionally, 5 banks are demanding early repayment of loans. The chairman has already fled abroad. The main topic of today's shareholders' meeting is to apply for dissolution. Audrey was stunned. The smile on her face froze, then disappeared, replaced by a pale expression. I sighed and said, "Miss Collins, it's fortunate you came today. Your father has fled the country, and there are debt collectors outside the company. They said if you don't pay today, they'll take a finger for every £90,000. It's a good thing you have Lennox to share the good times and the bad. Your family owes them £3.5 million. Between the two of you, counting your toes too, you'll just be able to clear the debt." Audrey Collins completely lost her previous arrogant demeanor. She grabbed my clothes, trembling with excitement as she spoke. "How on earth did you manage this? Our company was profitable before. Why are we suddenly facing bankruptcy? Tell me." I looked at her devastated expression and smiled. "I've been diligently helping your family's business, but you're right. I'm not capable enough. Perhaps your brother Lennox should take this position." Indeed, it was all business. In the first quarter, we had a pleasant collaboration with those influencers. By the second quarter, I discovered that Audrey's father had developed dementia. So, I proposed a plan for the company to create our own influencers, saving on marketing costs. I established a new company to handle business cooperation with Collins Group, telling them it was a venture prepared for Audrey. Audrey's father, being selfish, was more than happy to use the shareholders' money to line his own pockets under the guise of cooperation. Ironically, Audrey was too busy enjoying herself to pay attention to business. She would lazily sign documents from the company without reading them, just to get the money. She had unknowingly handed the company over to me. In his last moments of lucidity, her father still thought he was paving the way for his daughter, planning to oust me. In the second quarter, while I appeared to be working, I was secretly signing contracts with influencers. However, all the influencers I signed were chavs. But our company sells luxury goods. I also signed contracts with these legally naive chavs, ensuring they would only receive a tiny fraction of the profits. Entering the third quarter, Audrey's father had completely lost his former cognition. Under my orchestration, Collins Group began pouring marketing funds into the new company, yet received nothing in return. Despite this, they increased production, accumulating massive debts. Logically, my actions should have been discovered by other shareholders, but they were on my side. To achieve great things, one must learn to share benefits. After years of cooperation, the shareholders were well aware of the selfishness and incompetence of Audrey and her father. After witnessing this covert operation by Audrey's father, they firmly stood by my side. I couldn't have built this company alone. I had the support of 11 shareholders, excluding Audrey. The now powerless Audrey could only turn to Lennox Griffiths for help. Lennox frantically flipped through my documents and hurriedly said, "Don't worry, Audrey. We still have a large inventory of unsold goods, and your family has decades-old production lines and customer base. These are our assets. If we liquidate these things, based on your and your father's share percentages, not only can we pay off the debts, but you'll still be worth millions." Audrey, hearing this, immediately felt relieved. I nodded and said, "Yes, indeed. A new company is coming today to discuss acquiring our business." Audrey became agitated and started berating me. "You useless fool. Hurry up and make some tea to welcome the CEO." Following Audrey's instructions, I made a cup of tea and placed it on the chairman's seat. Then I sat down in the chair and took a sip of tea. Audrey looked at me in shock. "You worthless idiot. What are you doing drinking tea?" I said, "Now, let's discuss the acquisition of your family's business." Audrey Collins was initially dumbfounded, but quickly regained her composure. She gritted her teeth and said, Well, so you've already become someone else's lapdog, even helping them negotiate a company takeover. Once a servant, always a servant." Audrey sat back down in her chair and sneered. "What price did your new master offer?" I replied, "I've had everything in the warehouse inventoried. The production lines, remaining warehouse lease, and stable customer list are worth about £24 million in total." Upon hearing this, Lennox Griffiths excitedly said to Audrey, "Darling, if we sell all of this and clear the debts, you'll get at least £10 million. Audrey nodded and said to me, "I don't want to waste time with you. You're not even qualified to negotiate with me. Tell your master to pay up now. Also, I have one additional condition." I asked, "What condition?" She said coldly, "I want your new master to put it in black and white in the contract that you will never be appointed as managing director." I was taken aback for a moment, then honestly said, "I'm not the managing director in the company anyway." I was telling the truth. In the new company, I was the chairman, and the managing director position was intended for my secretary. When Audrey heard that I wasn't the managing director, she suddenly burst into laughter. "Barnaby Williams, I may not be doing well, but you've fallen from grace too, you useless servant. Even after losing the managing director position, you're still quick to grovel at your new master's feet. You're truly disgusting." I looked at her calmly and asked, "Are you done laughing?" She waved her hand dismissively. "You're not even worth my laughter anymore. £24 million. Bring the contract. Let's sign it." All the shareholders present gave Audrey meaningful looks. She asked, puzzled, "What's the matter?" "Come and review the contract." I asked her, "Did I say we were offering £24 million? She was stunned. I said, "Considering the depreciation of the production lines and the out-of-season stock, our company is willing to offer £4 million. Audrey slammed the table and cursed. "Is this how you negotiate? Fine. I'm not selling. There are plenty of companies interested. We don't need you." She angrily stood up to leave, while Lennox held her hand and said to me, "Barnaby Williams, I see it clearly now. The company behind you has no real intention of buying. You're just bitter and trying to bully Audrey." I smiled. "So what?" he said. "The tables will turn one day. When we rise again, you'll pay 100-fold for every insult you've thrown at Audrey today. I'll deal with those creditors. The Collins family might be down, but we're not out." He wrapped his arm around Audrey's waist, glared at me fiercely, and was about to lead her away. I spoke coldly, "Stop right there. This is a shareholders' meeting. Whether to sell to our company or not isn't for you to decide. It's determined by a shareholders' vote." Audrey mocked, "Do you think anyone would agree to these terms?" I said, "Shareholders in favor of selling, please raise your hands." All the shareholders present raised their hands one by one. Audrey's face grew increasingly pale, and Lennox nearly lost his balance, both stunned by the scene before them. For major company decisions, approval requires more than 2/3 of shareholders to vote in favor. And at this moment, it was 11-1. I smiled and said, "Motion passed. Let's sign the contract." Have you all gone mad? You've sold something worth £240 million for just £40 million. Audrey Collins could no longer contain her anger, ranting like a fishwife in the boardroom. Of course, the shareholders would agree. The new company was built by our own hands, and they had all arranged for their confidants or relatives to be placed there. Acquiring Collins Group was like moving money from the left pocket to the right, yet they still had to pay taxes. This was just a process of us slowly consuming the Collins family, payback for what they had done to us over the years. Audrey Collins cursed. "You bunch of bastards, you ungrateful wretches. My father is the largest shareholder. He has veto power." Though she was foolish, Lennox Griffiths had clearly seen through the current situation. He no longer backed Audrey Collins, but instead broke out in a cold sweat. I said, "Your father has already fled the country. He's been blacklisted by several institutions as a person of bad credit. Do you think he can come back to vote? The shareholders have the right to dispose of the company to cut their losses in time. I can vote on behalf of my father. Our shares combined are more than anyone else's. Do you have a power of attorney? Your father ran away, he's not dead. Why should you inherit his shares?" Audrey Collins turned ashen. Just then, the boardroom door was suddenly pushed open. Several burly men entered the boardroom. They had rough features and visible tattoos, looking like trouble at first glance. These people were the Collins family's creditors. Mr. Collins had chosen private loans to avoid the shareholders initially. His greed ultimately became the last straw that broke the Collins family's back. I said, "Miss Collins, after you take the money today, you'll be able to pay off what you owe the bank. But I'm afraid you won't be able to repay these street brothers £400,000. A tattooed thug suddenly cackled. "She'll be able to pay it back. We have ways to make her earn £400,000. I asked, "Is it the kind of method that can make a person appear in different corners of the world simultaneously?" The thug smirked. "That's the last resort." Audrey Collins swallowed hard. She asked Lennox Griffiths, "What are these people talking about? How can a person appear in different corners of the world at the same time?" Lennox Griffiths' face grew increasingly grim. He even started to tremble before finally saying, "Don't worry. We'll pay these gentlemen first. We can drag things out with the bank until your father returns." I took out the contract I had prepared in advance and placed it on the table. Audrey Collins trembled as she looked at the document. When she saw it clearly, she suddenly looked up at me. "Partia Barnaby Williams?" I smiled and said, "Let me introduce myself. From today onwards, I am the owner of Collins Group. And you're just a dog by my side." The father in the corner was completely dumbfounded. Audrey Collins fell to her knees with a thud. Even if she was foolish, she now understood her predicament. She clutched at my clothes, pleading, "Mr. Williams, I was wrong. It was all my fault before. Please, for the sake of my family's care for you, spare me." I sneered. "You dare mention care? Audrey Collins, don't you know how your family has treated me all these years? No matter what, I'm still your fiancée. The day before yesterday, you were still in bed with this man in our marital home. How dare you call yourself my fiancée?" Lennox Griffiths swallowed hard and said to Audrey, "Just sign it. Let's not beg him. With this money, I have a way to get you out of the country. We can continue living as rich socialites." I laughed. Even now, Lennox Griffiths was still thinking about Audrey's money. All the shareholders signed one by one. I called my secretary and said softly, "Transfer the funds." Audrey Collins breathed a sigh of relief. She said to the tattooed men, "Gentlemen, I'll pay you back right away. Just wait a moment. I have access to my father's card and PIN." Lennox Griffiths held her shoulders and turned to me, saying, "Remember this, we'll pay you back 100-fold. Audrey's attitude towards me changed again. She gritted her teeth and cursed, "Barnaby Williams, you ungrateful beast. Lennox's talent far surpasses yours. We'll definitely make a comeback abroad and return to leave you with nothing. I rubbed my chin and suddenly said, "Oh dear, that's bad." Audrey froze. "What's bad?" I tapped my forehead and said, "I'm so careless. Your father's card. I forgot to tell the finance department to pay it off 3 months ago. It's been frozen by the bank. But don't worry, once the money is transferred, the bank will probably take it immediately to pay off the debt." At this point, I smiled. "So don't worry, you won't owe the bank any money." Audrey could barely stand, swaying on the spot. The tattooed man frowned. "Miss Collins, so you can't pay us back the 400,000 pounds, right?" Audrey opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. In contrast, Lennox Griffiths, seeing that Audrey's situation was hopeless, turned to leave. Audrey quickly grabbed his arm, saying anxiously, "Lennox, where are you going? Don't drag me into this." Lennox shook off her hand. "From today on, we're completely done. You just said you were willing to go through thick and thin with me. This isn't about hardship anymore. It's about survival. Even married couples abandon each other when disaster strikes, let alone us." Audrey seemed to lose all her strength and slumped to the ground. I smiled and said, "Lennox Griffiths, you can't leave either." He stopped in his tracks and said coldly, "Barnaby Williams, don't try to scare me. To put it bluntly, so what if I slept with your wife? I'm not part of your company, and I don't owe any debts. I can come and go as I please." I looked at Lennox Griffith's arrogant face and said with a smile, "I indeed have no scores to settle with you, but regardless, Audrey Collins was once my fiancée, and there are a few accounts I can help her settle." He asked, "What accounts?" 3 years ago, she gave you a Porsche 911. It could still fetch 100,000 pounds secondhand now. And that watch you're wearing, I reckon she gave it to you as well? You couldn't possibly afford it yourself. Even that Armani suit you're wearing, how could a student on a government scholarship afford bespoke tailoring? Audrey Collins, who had been despondent, suddenly lifted her head, a glimmer of hope flashing in her eyes. She grabbed Lennox Griffith's hand and exclaimed, "Yes, you can't leave. Return everything I gave you and all the bank transfers. Give it all back." Lennox Griffiths angrily retorted, "Gifts are gifts. There's no logic in taking them back. You bastard. I wasted years loving you, gave you so many benefits, and now you'd rather watch me die than return anything to me." Audrey stood up and reached out to grab Lennox's face, cursing, "I'll fight you. Give everything back right now." The once loving couple was now brawling. If outsiders saw this, who would believe this was a shareholders' meeting? It was more like a market square fight. I sat in the chairman's seat, watching them grapple, thoroughly amused. Lennox was brutal with Audrey, his fists repeatedly smashing into her face. But how could Audrey let go of this last lifeline? Even with a bloody nose, she clung to Lennox desperately. Seeing she was losing the fight, Audrey quickly turned to the tattooed men and pleaded, "Lads, help me out. If I sue him, I can definitely get the money back and repay you." After a moment's consideration, they actually grabbed Lennox by the neck, lifting him up like a chicken. If they could recover the money through legal means, they naturally wouldn't want to expend extra effort. Lennox was furious. He spat a glob of phlegm onto Audrey's face and shouted, "I played along with you for years, and now you want to take everything back. All these years I've been used by you for nothing. Disgusting. Revolting. I'm the one who should feel disgusted. I had an abortion for you. I wanted to hand over the family business to you. And in the end, you're the one with the wolfish heart." I stroked my chin, watching the enraged Audrey. How interesting. She would never call him Darling Lennox again, no matter what. Audrey Collins finally managed to clear her debts. It's easy to imagine how much she had invested in Lennox Griffiths over the years. Former lovers now faced each other as adversaries in court. In the end, the court ruled that Lennox Griffiths had to return all assets. The cars and items could help Audrey Collins pay off about 200,000 pounds of debt, and through investigation of transfer records, she had previously transferred 280,000 pounds in cash to Lennox Griffiths. The problem was that after Lennox Griffiths hooked up with a wealthy older woman, he spent money extravagantly and quickly ran out of funds. Even though the court ordered him to repay, he couldn't come up with the money. At the last moment, Audrey Collins fully inherited her father's selfishness. She sold the £260,000 debt to those tattooed thugs. Of course, the creditors agreed to accept the deal that would earn them an extra £60,000. They always had ways to get their money back. After acquiring Collins Group's production lines, customer base, and products, I immediately promoted and marketed them, converting inventory into cash. Then I terminated contracts with those chavs and signed new ones with influencers and talents whose fan bases were suitable for luxury goods. We already had a comprehensive business plan, and with Collins Group's customer base, we quickly got the new company on track. As for Mr. Collins, he had already died abroad, unable to return. The next time I saw Audrey Collins, I was sitting in my car while she stood on the street corner. Once a privileged heiress, she was now truly a working girl. She wore revealing clothes as she stood by the roadside, holding a cigarette. Her face was heavily made up, but it couldn't hide her increasingly deteriorating skin. I asked the driver to stop and waved at her. She didn't recognize me at first and hurriedly scampered into the car. As soon as she got in, I smelled the pungent odor of cheap cosmetics. It was very unpleasant. Audrey Collins called out, "Boss," before realizing it was me, then gaped in shock. I said, "How come you're alone? Where's Lennox Griffiths?" "I don't know." She shook her head. "We haven't seen each other since the court ruling." "Oh, this job suits you well now." She clutched her skirt tightly, forcing out a smile. At that moment, she seemed to merge with the little girl I remembered from childhood. Audrey Collins said softly, "Mr. Williams, I'm really struggling to get by. It was all my fault back then. If you could just forgive me, I'd even kowtow to you. Please, can you take me in?" I said, "Do you remember that time at the start of spring term? I wore a new outfit, and you insisted I get down on all fours in front of the whole class so you could ride me like a horse. You ruined my clothes." Tears fell as she cried, "Mr. Williams, I'm so sorry. When I got home that day, it was your mum who mended my clothes, stitch by stitch. You and your father were both heartless people. After your dad's business took off, he immediately dumped your mum. And even though your mum was so good to you, you chose to follow your wealthy father. Even when she was dying of depression and wanted to see you one last time, you refused." Audrey Collins hung her head in silence. I sighed. She was the only one in the Collins family who ever showed me kindness. If you and your father hadn't abandoned her, I would have repaid that kindness and never gone after your family. Gratitude is gratitude, and grudges are grudges. The Collins family may be gone, but I have to do right by your mum. Come to the office tomorrow. I'll give you a position with a monthly salary over £1,000. I won't let her flesh and blood starve on the streets." Audrey Collins' eyes widened as she quickly asked, "What position?" The next day, an important old client was coming to discuss business. I picked him up in my Maybach. As we arrived at the company and the doors opened, Audrey Collins stood at the entrance, wearing a welcome banner, and bowed respectfully. "Good morning, Mr. Williams." The client glanced at Audrey Collins and said curiously, "This girl looks somewhat familiar, but I can't quite place who she is." I glanced at Audrey Collins and couldn't help but laugh. Just a lapdog. Not worth remembering the name.